Hi, I'm Rob,
And I'm Angie.
and together we are TwinFinity.
Nicely done.
We don't get to practice this very much anymore. It's lots of fun. We also have Cookie, our dog, is over there, but earlier we were throwing her little stick bone that she has, and it bounced someplace where she couldn't get at it. And so now that we've dug that out for her and thrown it over here in the corner, I don't think we're going to see her this whole video because she's giving her bone heck for having bounced into someplace that she couldn't get it and we had to go rescue it for her. So, yeah, that poor bone is just getting gnawed on with all full intention.
So if you hear weird noises, it's just the dog chewing her bone.
Crunch, crunch, munch,
Yes.
slurp, slobber. That's what dogs do when they eat bones.
So happy end of, what month is this? March.
January.
I was going to say, oh right, March.
It's March.
I have been really, really enormously and ridiculously busy with work. Normally, this month, whatever month it is my busiest month, but it's exceptionally busy this year. And I'm doing bookkeeping sometimes for like a whole year's worth of bookkeeping. So it's hard to even know what day I'm on, what month I'm on, what year I'm on. Because I just did, a couple weeks ago, I did 2021's books for somebody.
Yeah.
So that was like a couple of years ago from now that we're in 2023. So I don't know what the day, the month, the year, I don't know. So just forgive me. And I might be kind of dopey. I'll try my best to answer questions, but man, oh man. Are you ready to bleep me?
Bleep?
Bleep.
Okay.
I'm going to swear. I have been working my ass off.
Bleep.
You're too late. I gave you a long
Well, I had to see if you're going to add anything else to the end of it.
No, there wasn't going to be anything drastic.
I had my lungs all full of air, ready to just bleep and bleep and bleep. In fact, I still haven't breathed in yet.
Okay, you can
Still
breathe.
Not yet.
You can breathe. It's okay.
Okay, I guess I'm going to have to breathe in.
Yeah.
I'm running out of air.
So I'm been living kind of in my head for the last month, so it'll be interesting how well I can do on answers. Rob might be taking the lead tonight. I'll just nod and smile.
The past couple of videos, it's been me saying, oh, I'm not quite on my game, possibly. Tonight, I feel great. It's her turn.
Yeah. I've been awake since 4, and then I finally fell asleep just in time for the dog to need to go outside. So it's been a long day.
It's been 20 minutes longer than what it should be, and anybody who's got up 20 minutes before when they would normally get up would know that 20 minutes feels like 2 hours.
Well, it wasn't just 20 minutes because I had finally fallen asleep after being awake for hours. And then I had to go take the dog out.
So if each
so
hour
then it was extra sucky.
So if 20 minutes early feels like 2 hours early, and each hour that you're awake in the night feels like an extra hour over and above what you were awake. So if you're awake for 2 hours, that was 4 hours, and the 20 minutes early counts for 2 more. It feels like you got up 6 hours early.
I'm sorry I brought it up. I'm sorry. Now.
This is just all Rob math.
Now, we're going to move on and get Rob out of Rob math. Rob, we haven't talked about this other than Rob has a plan of what he's going to share next, and I don't really know what it is. So we're all going to be surprised all at the same time.
Well, during our videos now, lately, we've been talking about cute things that we do between us. Tonight's is actually just a little more serious. It's a little bit more about respectfulness.
Really?
According to the Myers-Briggs personality tests,
which was a question in the last question and answer videos.
We're both introverts, aside from many other little bits and pieces.
Which is ridiculous. He's no introvert.
Yeah, no, and she does so well in videos. She's no introvert either.
I'm not. We're here in our basement alone. There's no people here. They're out there in people land.
We have something that we call Wednesday night. Wednesday night is quite important. It's weekends usually get a little time to yourself, and introverts tend to like time to themselves. Now, I don't need a lot of it, but when I do need it, it's because of something that specifically happened. Like if I have a rough day at work, I want to come home, I want to cave, I want to go have a workout. Then I can come back out and be a little bit more calmed down after I've had a chance to release all that energy. Some days I don't have any energy to bleed off at all. But Angie is significantly more sensitive, more introverted than I am. And when Wednesday nights come along, it's what she calls her night off. I used to go play badminton on Wednesday nights. So I'd go straight from work, go play badminton, get home at 9, 9:30, even as late as 10 o'clock at night. And she'd have the whole evening off right in the middle of the week.
Lovely.
And she'd just have that all this quiet caving time, just her and the dog. And usually she'd entertain the dog in ways that she didn't have to look after the dog much. So, yeah, she'd have Wednesday nights off. I haven't played badminton in a couple of years now, pandemic related, of course, and I have no real plans on going back. So, Angie still wants her Wednesday nights off. So, I've learned to come home right after work and we do a quick update on what our days have been like, and then we might or might not even reconvene for supper. Normally we have supper together, but even that's not mandatory. I think we still try to, but
We usually do. I just don't have to play a game because we play a game almost every night, and I don't have to play a game on Wednesdays. I get to just do completely my own thing. Watch a movie, build a puzzle, just have some alone time.
and I in turn have learned that I kind of like my Wednesday nights off too. I don't need to be that far away from Angie. I still like to sneak by every so often, once every hour or so, give her a little kiss on the side of the forehead or cheek or whatever, and gone again.
Yes.
I still like to sneak in and just say hi, bye. But yeah, I do my own thing. Usually I break out a game or something and just play that until I'm tired or nearly at bedtime or whatever. And yeah, it's it's kind of a nice thing that we give each other, which is that evening off, even though it's still most of the time an evening together and in a roundabout way in the same room. We just chill out and do our own thing.
So how does that tie in with?
Well, you see,
Yeah.
that's the introverted sides of both of us that enjoy that time. Going back to the Myers-Briggs bits, I hope that's what it's called.
Yes, that is what it's called.
We took the online test. I guess if you Google 16personalities.com, you'll be able to find it.
It's a free short version of the full Myers-Briggs test. And just to backtrack, somebody in our last Q&A that we did on December 24th, I think it was, had asked, do we know our Myers-Briggs personalities? And we said, no, we've both done the test years ago, but don't remember what we were. So over Christmas, this was one of our pieces of homework from you guys. So we did the test, and it was quite surprising, yet not surprising, what our results were. Now, we tried to actually review this together.
Just review our bits, talk about it, do a chat back and forth while we were recording what we were talking about.
Yeah, so we could post it for you guys just to share it, but the video did not turn out at all.
The sound was just terrible. It didn't work. We didn't set it up quite right, I suppose. We didn't know we weren't going to be successful, but we might, especially if we give this a couple of months off and everything's more or less fresh again, we might try to do that again. Or if enough people ask for it, maybe we will do a video that.
If you guys want it.
If you want a video, we'll go through these test thingies in detail. I suppose I'm a little hesitant to just have a whole video where we just talk about ourselves. But yeah, like of course, being introverts, we're not that excited about really talking all that much about ourselves. But if people want that, maybe we will just do that.
So we thought at least we'd give you a brief synopsis of, first of all, what we are and kind of what it means. Because the person was asking, the original question was all about, like, are twin flames always the same letters, for better word, like personality? Because if you know the Myers-Briggs, it breaks it down into, is it 4 letters? Yeah,
four letters.
So the answer, first of all, is no, not necessarily, because Rob and I are not the same letters, but we are very close.
We're side by side personalities. When you go from extreme introverts to extreme extroverts and various other things that all come into the mix, our two personality types are very close to each other. I came out to be what's called an advocate, an INFJ, and according to these people, it's the rarest personality type, but we certainly leave our mark on the world. I could say whatever that means, but we would have to talk about
You
that
are
more.
one of a kind.
I definitely am one of a kind. Being an advocate, in a nutshell, I find things that I believe in, and I jump on the bandwagon and I support it. I go full speed, like an advocate would. I guess that's why they give it that name.
Yes. And mine is an INFJ. So you're an.
I'm an I.
Oh no, you're the INFJ.
I'm the INFJ.
I'm the ISFJ.
Only one letter different.
Yeah, and we won't even go into detail what like the letters are and all that. But so I'm what's called a defender, and it's introverted, observant.
Feeling.
Yeah.
And judging.
Well, yours is judging too, and it doesn't mean judging in the way you mean judging. That's why I wasn't even going to read that because it doesn't explain.
Judging means discerning in many cases. The ability to split things out, see the finer points. My 4 words were introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. And I'm not afraid to say it this way. Angie had her nose a little bit out of joint.
I did so.
About the thought that I had the intuitive.
And I had the observant.
And she had the observant. When I feel like I'm a little bit more observant, like not observant enough to be like a detective, but intuitive, that should be her word.
Yeah.
It's my word.
But really, he is intuitive as well, so fine. Fine, I'll give him intuitive. But it was fun to do, so we're really glad the person that asked this question did ask, and it gave us the opportunity to go do the research and do the test and learn more. We love doing these kind of personality tests. I don't want to talk too much about this because we have questions that we're here to do.
We've got real questions.
But I did want to just comment on one thing. It was interesting. I did the test first, then Rob did it, and then he gave the computer back to me to save his answer, and I did something and it didn't save. So he redid the test, and he ended up being my personality. So that's how close we are, is that, you know how they always say take your first answer? Well, when you do a test again, you don't always go with your first answer. Like sometimes you try too hard now that you know what the questions are. But that's how close our personalities are, is that he can redo the test and get slightly different response or answers and end up with one personality over and match mine.
I actually redid it twice in rapid succession, trying to remember what I'd done the first time, and still ended up with Angie's personality type. Then I took about a week or 10 days off and started with a fresh mind and just went back into the test and redid it again and came up with my first answer. So when I was trying to manipulate it, I came up with Angie's personality type. When I was just doing it with a fresh mind, I came up with my own personality type.
Yeah.
But it's just, I must be just like a quarter of a question away.
Totally.
Just from whether or not it's extreme in favor or extreme not, or whether you think you are, or whatever, how you'd normally respond. I must be just a smidge of a question off of the borderline.
Yeah.
And I actually believe that if I'm right on the cusp of where I'm at and Angie's personality type, I actually believe that Angie is at the opposite end and almost a bit off the other side. Because Angie and I, in many ways, are different. We've got so many strengths and weaknesses that we're opposite on, but it does have a very similar foundation. So I think we're both right on the edge, just opposite edges of that one personality type. See, we talked too much about it already.
Yes. Okay, questions.
Did you happen to read them for continuity, or am I?
Yes, I did.
Or am I just on my own?
No, I read them. Well, I didn't necessarily read them for continuity. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just did a quick skim of them.
Okay.
So I could be prepared, because I had to go grab a book for one of the questions.
There's lots of stuff here, and yeah, okay, let's get going.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Angie has her hot oat milk drink that she likes to have, and we didn't have time to let her sip away and finish this before we got started because
No, I intentionally had it with.
and she
So I could
she wants to
enjoy
have
it.
it here. So
Yes.
if she slurps away while we're
My little
talking,
lips.
um, it's just the way it is. She's got a happy drink with her.
Rob's basically apologizing for my slurping. That's fine. Go ahead and apologize.
In one of our story videos, I
Yeah,
was
you
hungry.
ate.
I
You just
I
started
munched away.
eating.
We were talking away, and I started munching away on a granola bar. So I won't even say that we're even because at least I knew she was going to be having an oat milk. She had no idea I was going to eat a granola bar in the middle of our video.
Okay, can we get?
Can we get going?
My personality is highly task oriented. Can you tell? I'm like, let's go,
We're-
and I'm in total bookkeeper mode. So I'm like,
And sometimes my enthusiasm causes me to get off on tangents.
no. We're probably like 15 minutes in the video, and we haven't answered a single question. Let's see. Oh, 16. Look at that. I'm right.
She's often right. She doesn't give herself enough credit. Do you think it's possible, and good practice, to close the portal of telepathy with your TF when it's only manifesting in 5D, in the 5D world? That's an interesting question. I have very strong telepathy with my twin flames since the beginning, 6 years ago, but no contact at all in the 3D world. Even if he proposed to me in 5D, in 3D, nothing would happen. I don't even know for sure if he's still married. I just feel that he is divorced, but he is not communicating with me about anything. I just sent them, I'm going to say him. I just sent him an email during this time because he keeps opening this email, and even if he does not respond, only a few times in the past 7 years. Telepathy in love can be great sometimes, but frustrating when this love can't manifest itself in the physical reality. And someone says that as long as I keep that portal open, I'm giving my TF an easy escape out of the real relationship. Interesting. I'm only allowing a connection in the dream or astral rather than real reactions. Is that true? Thanks so much for any insight. There's a lot going on in that question. Here we had thoughts of getting way, way down the page, and this is one of these questions that's going to take up just as long as our intro did this time.
And my task-oriented self is just going to have to sit back here and shut up.
No, not really.
I would like to hear your thoughts first.
With all the thoughts that we hear that people would love to be able to get their 5D communication going better, we've got somebody here that's got 5D communication wondering if they should just tone it down. Is it too much of a good thing? No, I don't think so.
Knew that was going to be your answer.
No.
Rob's like, if there's communication, there's communication. Allow it.
Whatever you got, other than the fact it can be torturous for you, which is where I think this is mostly going.
Yeah.
Someone is getting impatient. They must be task-oriented. Someone's getting impatient about all this 5D stuff because it's getting them nowhere in 3D, which is what they're really just after. But so many others have a little bit of 3D communication and just can't get the 5D going. This is actually a completely inverted question, which is fine because not everybody's having the same journey.
True.
Still don't know about a status, not communicating with me, only responded a few times over 7 years. Yes, it can be frustrating when this love can't manifest itself in the physical reality. I think right off the bat, I'm going to say that no, leave the 5D portal, leave it wide open. This is something that we're all trying to learn to get better at. And if you've got that, even if it's, accidental is the wrong word, even if it's an accidental skill, something you just can't really turn off, or you're not sure on how to do that, consider yourself lucky. Thank your ability for being there, because really, if the rest of the world could communicate better in 5D, and if we could let's say, improve our manifestations or collective thoughts, I think the world would be a better place. So keep that as a strength. Don't shut it down. So many people have strengths that they just either don't appreciate or it hurts a lot to keep. And when they shut it down, they lose it. I think Angie could attest to that.
Yes. Yes. When Rob and I were first, well, I guess not first, but a couple months into our connection, I was opening up spiritually so much. I had just learned Reiki and I was starting to see angels and auras and like, not just with your, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was very, very strong. Like, I could literally see them as if they were here, and I could see auras, like really strong colors. And I shut it down because if you know our story, you know that the angels told me all sorts of things were going to happen, and they didn't happen between Rob and I until 18 years later. And so in that time that we were apart and I thought my angels had lied to me, I just shut all of my gifts off, and they've never come back the same. And I so miss seeing auras the way I used to see them. And I don't see angels the way I used to see them either. So that little story is just an example of when you have gifts, allow them, keep them. Because if you shut them off, you don't know if they're going to come back. But I also agree with Rob in the sense of so many people would crave that 5D connection and don't have it. So if you have it, I think that's a blessing. Yes, I understand it can be a curse as well. I totally understand where you're coming from in the sense of, like, when there's all this 5D stuff going on and nothing in 3D, because I had that with Rob for quite a while. Granted, nothing like yours. It hadn't been 7 years. But I know it was frustrating for me when there was so much happening in 5D, and yet, as we've said in many videos, nothing but talking about license plates in 3D. Like, there was no deep spiritual connection. There was no talk about wanting to be together, and yet in 5D, like, he was saying all sorts of those things. But if you also remember the term or the expression as above, so below, what happens in 5D eventually grounds down into 3D, and maybe that's where you need to take things, is work on your 5D connection and bring it down to the 3D. And how I mean by that is you can even ask your twin, like, can you start communicating with me in the 3D? I did that with Rob when I wasn't even sure if I was truly hearing him or if I was just nuts. I said, if this is really true and you're really communicating with me, text me. And literally within 10 minutes, I got a text from him. Now, it wasn't him saying, I can hear you, and we are talking telepathically, because he wasn't consciously aware of our telepathic connection, but he obviously heard me. His soul self knocked on his, like, human self and said, hey, send her a text. So they do hear enough to kind of reconnect with the 3D aspect of the person to get them to communicate. So that's a way to do it, but you can also start practicing other techniques to help bring the connection grounded into this physical world. And I don't have any examples right now. I'm sorry. I know somebody's going to go, what are the examples? I don't know. I'll come with those maybe some other day when my head's not stuck in bookkeeping. It's the problem with doing a video in spirituality when you've been in your head for a month.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know. Just there's things.
I did want to add just a little bit to what Angie was saying. For the person who asked this question, I'm going to guess that you don't know how much of your 5D communication that you are feeling is also being felt by your twin. You don't know that. They might be in a situation where twice a week they think of you and they just can't shake you out of their mind. And it's almost annoying to them that they can't just make all this communication go away. And then you try to connect with them in in 3D and they're like, okay, hang on. What's going on? What's going on? If they are developing in their spiritual selves, eventually they may learn enough, kind of like I did, that this thought of why is this person just been so special for reasons that I don't understand might turn back into a curiosity, which would then allow them the leeway to respond in 3D, but probably at your insistence. So if they're feeling absolutely nothing, then, well, then maybe that would be about where I was, where I didn't consciously understand that I was communicating. You probably are not invisible to them. You'd still exist. And a little bit of 3D prodding, I don't think is any harm. But part of the question here is, and I'm going to reword the question just a little bit based upon what I think I read, is your 5D communication enabling them to stay away from 3D communication? Which turned around would be, if you stop 5D, are they going to miss the communication that they're getting in 5D and therefore be more likely to respond in 3D, which is what the person asking the question is really pointed at. So is there a enabling or disabling going on depending upon what point of view you look at it? Well, I have an answer that I wouldn't normally give on this. But if you're willing to just live with silence and you're not concerned about losing your communication portal if you tone it down, I wouldn't say turn it off. I'd just say turn it down. Sort of like when you turn a stove down to simmer, don't turn it off. Just turn it down to simmer and see whether or not that prompts any 3D communication. And be prepared to wait months. That's the word I have to use. Months can be just a few weeks or it can be many weeks for this change in tone, this change in temperature to be noticed. It might take a while. But if you wanted to do that as an experiment, well, it looks like you've waited a long time with the style of communication you have right now. So if you take a 6 month or year and experiment and do something a little different, you'll either get something different or you won't. But even if you don't get something different and need to turn on your 5D again just to make sure that you don't lose it, at least maybe your twin will have felt something different for a while, so that maybe they're not either on their guard or off their guard as much as what they want to be. I can't say that they would feel it if you did it, but if they do, you win, and if they don't, you're no different than where you are right now. So experiment away.
That's good, and I wanted to just kind of add to that is, what kind of communication are you having with them in 5D? Like, is it all just the lovey, romantic, kind of beautiful stuff where you're sort of just feeding them? Like, is it a codependent 5D relationship, I guess is what I want to ask.
Yes.
Or are you challenging them? And this is part of what I meant by, bringing it down to 3D. Are you saying, hey, I want to communicate with you on a different level? Can we, you can ask them these things in 5D. You can challenge them. It's not like you have to be all lovey and kind, and I mean, you still want to be kind, but you don't have to be all like sweet and gentle. I was not kind sometimes to Rob in 5D. I'd be like, and I'm going to swear again, so get ready to bleep me. I was like, get your shit together.
Bleep.
Like, this, we're not carrying on with this forever. I want a 3D relationship. Are you in or are you not? I literally said those things in 5D, telepathically. So it's not like you're just going to be all sweet and lovey and romantic. No, sometimes you got to call them out on their BS.
That's not a bleep.
No, it's not. And being that you're not doing that in 3D, because that would just push them away, you can do that in 5D. And I personally recommend it. I don't recommend it, like every day, like you're just going to start yelling at them. No, of course not. But be your authentic self. That's what telepathy is, right? it's no barriers. It's just communicating everything. It's speaking your entire truth to them through your mind.
Without being blunt, I just wanted to tone that down just a little notch, which is fair. Without being blunt, there is no harm in asking for what you want.
No.
So sometimes, as opposed to being all sweet almost to the point of begging, you can just be direct.
And that's where, when I said, is it codependent in terms of like, are you just feeding each other niceties the whole time in 5D, or are you really having honest, true communications? Because that's what being direct is. Are you saying to them the same things you would say to them if they were face to face with you and you weren't afraid that they were going to leave? That's the kind of communication you want to be having.
That is super hard to do, because what Angie has just suggested there is stepping off the best behavior bandwagon and just being your authentic self. You know how a lot of people, when they get together for the first 6 months, are on best behavior. They're afraid to insult the other person or to show their bad sides, if you want to say someone has a bad side. But when they've been together for 20 years, they're sitting on the couch drinking beer, all the time. Okay, yeah, it's one of those things. Are you prepared to be authentic as opposed to trying to entice or manipulate through just showing a certain side?
Right. Yeah.
Good question. Really,
Yeah.
there was a lot in there.
Yeah.
When was the last time I said bad question? I say this once in a while because it's true. And the next question on our list, were we done with that one?
Yes.
Okay. The task person says that we're done with that question. The next question is just a few words long. Does spirit leave clues for when reunion is about to happen? It's been my experience reading the odd question, hearing the odd story, reading the odd story, especially from people who have sent us their story in the form of a question, that does spirit leave clues for when reunion is about to happen? Reunion doesn't tend to just drift into place. Something unusual, something strong, something weird, something out of the normal usually is required to kickstart reunion. It could be something just as simple as someone's milestone birthday, like they turned 30. Screen tried to freeze. But yeah, it's something as like the milestone birthday. Or it could be something as tragic as getting their car rode off in an accident, and they make it through, great, but they reevaluate their life because they just had the bejeebers scared out of them. That's not a bleep either. So usually one or the other has something happen that reinitiates the need because someone has reevaluated what life is about. That's a pretty extreme situation.
Yeah.
But quite often, something even half that much is all it takes to kickstart a stronger communication.
So it's interesting you went that direction. And I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. It's just that's why it's good for us to do videos together, is because we have different perspectives.
This was what would happen in 3D to prompt it.
Well, see, when they're asking, does spirit leave clues? I'm thinking, like, is it the numbers? Like, some people start seeing numbers everywhere. They start seeing hearts everywhere. Or they're seeing the person's name or initials everywhere. That sort of thing.
Yeah, or where all of a sudden a billboard with just the right wording on it shows up at every billboard within 5
or you
miles.
see the word union everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's also clues as opposed to a spurning.
Yes.
But a lot of times people have found their way into the journey because of the clues.
Yes.
So clues are quite common. A lot of people start to take the clues a little for granted, don't pay attention to them as much Unless, of course, a fresh batch of clues comes along.
Well, and that's what I think ever happens. And I'm only talking from my experience and some other people's that I've been in contact with, is that yes, there are a ton. Like I kept a bunch of mine. It's kind of neat to go back and I see all these like newspaper clippings of like doors are opening because he would tell me telepathically the doors are opening for us, and then I would see this on a billboard and in newspaper clippings, and people would be saying the doors are opening, and I'd be like, what? So yes, in my experience, there definitely spirit leaves clues to say that reunion is kind of on the way. And it's for us to decide if we want to accept those clues or if we just want to go, oh, whatever, yeah, I've heard this before. Because, after a while, like if you've been on the journey a long time and you've been awake on the journey for a long time, unlike us who didn't know we were twin flames, maybe we had clues along the way and we were just like, didn't even know they were clues because we'd moved on with our lives. A lot of people after years are like, whatever, spirit, yeah, I've seen that number a bazillion times, I've seen that message. Sometimes it's spirit, and sometimes it's just a message, and sometimes it's our wishful thinking. I think it comes down to you have to go within and find out, what does this mean for me? Like, how do I want to interpret this? And how do I feel about this? Do I feel good about this, or am I just like, yeah, whatever? Do I have the bitterness? Like there's lots of ways to interpret it. But yes, I think it's very, very common to have the synchronicities, the magic, all of that stuff really speed up around union time. Definitely.
I have nothing else to add. Angie, you had a great answer.
Well, thank you.
Short question, short answer.
Okay, you can read the next question.
She had to get me my clipboard, my pink clipboard, which is actually her pink clipboard, but we use it. It's ours. I was sitting here putting my foot to sleep, and I think a few of you might have noticed me wince as I stretched my leg out. I just about had a hamstring cramp. I just about had to drop out of the video because I was just about rolling around on the floor. I did a heavy elliptical workout before this. Okay, somebody wants to get on with the questions.
We are not in compatible states this evening. He's all chit-chatty about nothing, and I'm like, get to it!
We're not in compatible states. We're in compatible provinces.
That's true.
Okay.
Just one. Oh, God.
Okay. I haven't found much info on how your twin flames children fit into the dynamic, and whether there's usually a spiritual connection or similarities between you and those children, even though they are not blood. Also, if those children are born through a karmic, what role do they play in this TF dynamic? Oh. Your TF's children are part of your soul group. Let's just start there. Assumption is one of those great words, but they generally are part of your soul group because, and this is something that both Angie and I missed out on because we didn't have children of our own, and she dealt a lot more with kids than I did even. Children teach you a lot, and we are here to learn a lot, and watching people grow.
Who are you tonight? I have never heard you speak of children in such a positive way. What?
Children teach you a lot because you get to watch them grow, and in essence, you can learn how to grow through how children grow. They often learn very innocently, especially when they're young, and yet we as adults have learned how to grow through clouded, jaded eyes because of our experiences in life. So sometimes to watch children grow can be magical because it's not how we grow anymore because we've...
Children and magical in the same sentence.
How do they fit into...
Aliens have come down and infiltrated your brain.
And this is why people, when they have kids, very seldomly do they give them back. I'm tapping away.
I know they're going to hear it in the videos. Oh. Bang, bang, bang.
Okay. So anyway, I'll just blame that on the dog chewing on the bone. So anyway, yeah, I'm quite excited about how children affect the TF dynamic, mostly because they add a bit of opportunity for education. They may not have any real meaning to the one that doesn't have the children, but they often mean a lot, a huge amount, to the growth of the person that does have the children. So, uh, boy, as much as we have a little bit of a harder time justifying how karmics are important in a person's life, because so many people have had karmics that just they don't feel that the karmic relationship did much for them. I think that children in your TF's life are just as important.
I know of some people on the twin flame journey whose twin flame, even though they're not in a relationship, they're not in union, their twin flame has had a child, and the other person feels a deep connection to that child, even if they've not met them physically. They know that soul. So absolutely, they're part of your soul growth or soul group. They are part of your soul growth as well. Um, and yes, they have often chosen, these children have often chosen to come down knowing that the parent they've chose is also a twin flame to somebody else, and so they have already sort of chosen that that other person will be a parent of theirs someday, whether it's a co-parent or a step parent, or in some other sort of connection, that that person will also be in their life. So it's not at all uncommon for these children to specifically choose to come to people that are twin flames, even though those people aren't the two that birthed that child. So it's quite fascinating. It's very similar to adoption. Souls can come through one person, but know that that's not the person they are going to have as their parent. They're choosing another parent through adoption. So these souls are just choosing their parents through a different means. So it's quite fascinating. But absolutely, children play a huge role in the twin flame connection, even if they're not yours physically by blood.
I spoke enough about children that I'm worn out.
I bet, especially when you say children and magic and the same, like what? Oh, I'm concerned.
She's worried about me because I just had lots of enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's the most enthusiasm I've ever seen from you with the word children.
Well, just because I haven't been enthusiastic to have any of my own at all doesn't mean I begrudge other people that have gone down that route. The planet would have been really messed up from a human point of view if everyone decided not to have children for 3 generations. It would have been all over.
Yep.
Adam, Eve, nothing. Done. It could have been that simple. Okay.
I don't think we should have let him do a video tonight.
I guess not. I had 2 great workouts in a row. I'm kind of buzzing off it.
Good, you got a whole big question to read with your buzzing.
Yeah, I just was just going because you look at a page and you go, oh, there's a paragraph, and then you look at a page and you go, oh, that's a question. Okay, I'm going to try this.
Okay.
This almost looks like 2 questions.
It is 2 questions.
Okay.
Where they say my second question?
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Oh, they even use a word that I like to use. I wanna ask you something, but it's very hard to explain, so I'll try my best.
I love it.
Yesterday, I was feeling a very strong and intense, loving energy from my twin flame. However, today I came across a video of him that he posted today and felt something was off, and I was so uncomfortable watching it and could not stand watching it till the end. I feel like he is not being himself and that he was at a very low vibration. Therefore, doubts started to haunt me, and I started asking myself if he is a false twin flame, because I've read that when you feel something is off, he is a false one. Now, this next little bit is in bold. I'll tell you when it unbolts.
Apparently, pay attention.
Since twin flames share the same soul, then, if my other half is at a low vibe while I am at a high one, will that make me receive this negative energy accordingly and feel disconnected to him as if we were not aligned energetically at the moment? Unbold. I feel right now that I don't want to be around him, even though I still want to share with him what happened throughout my day, and I still feel like I could be myself around him. I love him unconditionally, and it's been a year now, and all I feel when I look at him or hear him talk is that it is me in another body. I also don't get the sudden energy shift that's happening to me overnight. Also, since I met him, I see 1111 and 111 every single day. What stood out to me in that question is something, but I've answered first, I think, every question. How about you?
You're gonna let me answer first,
You
because
can-
I really want to on this one.
Okay.
Because I have an example.
You see, this is about asking for what you want. She has an example, she has an answer, and we can't see each other's elbows, and wants to know each other's elbows. So she could have just gone a little elbow in the ribs and said, "Me first."
But I didn't. You just telepathically heard me.
See, there we go. You can answer.
Just because they're out of alignment and you no longer sort of resonate with them, it doesn't mean you're not twin flames. What it means, and I wanted to just go back before I even said that.
There's one word in that whole question that's totally got me going. It's not a trigger, it's just a notation.
This person says, I feel like he was not being himself. Yes, that's what you picked up on. When Rob and I, back in 97, you know how you go through the love bubble phase and blah, 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 and then afterwards it starts falling apart and like everything about them triggers you. I was being so triggered by him because he was in his ego so much. And I was just like, that is not you. I didn't even know how I knew that wasn't him because I didn't know about twin flames and, you know, your higher self and all of that. But I just was so irritated by him when he was in his ego because I'm like, that is not who you are. And yes, I felt the same way you feel. Like I was just like, I don't even want to be around you. Like our energies are not meshing. So that to me is what you're feeling. You're feeling him not being his authentic self. And that's why you're bothered by it. It's not that he's necessarily a false twin. Now I'm not going to say, I can't say for sure that he's a true twin or not. That's for you to decide. That's your own inner connection. But I am saying just because you feel like all of a sudden the connection no longer has the same resonance, it doesn't mean that it's not a true twin flame. It just means you're picking up on the fact that he's not being authentic, and that really bugs you because that's the part of the journey is to be your most authentic self, like we said in the very first question. So then the next question is, when they're at a low vibe and you're at a high vibe, will you receive the negative energy? Only if you choose it. Because you're aware, you don't have to choose his low vibration. When you're at a high vibe, it takes a lot to bring you down. And your twin flame does not have to be one to bring you down. It's your choice. You can look at him and be annoyed and say, you know, he's not being his authentic self, he's not being true to himself, and be really annoyed by that. Or you can have compassion for him and say, okay, he's not being that because he's afraid to. He's got to put on this mask, this facade of who he thinks he is because he's protecting himself. He's got walls. So you can choose to stay in high vibration and honor him with compassion, or you can lower yourself to his vibration and be in judgment. It's totally your choice, but you don't have to take on that low vibration. And yes, you don't want to be around him. Totally get that. When Rob was in ego state, I didn't want to be around him either. It just really, really annoyed me. And I could give examples, but I won't. Yeah, I think. Okay, and then the stuff about the numbers. Yes, it's not uncommon when you meet your twin flame to see the numbers, but it's also 1111 and 111 are also awakening codes. So that doesn't, it's not like a verification when you start seeing ones that it's twin flame necessarily. I was with a karmic partner when I started seeing 1111, and clearly they're not my twin flame. But we were both seeing those numbers. They're awakening codes as well as being codes for twin flames. So I wouldn't base your like is he or isn't he my twin flame just on numbers.
Yeah, the awakening codes can be just for yourself.
Right. Yeah. So before we go to the next question, if you want to give your perspective, or we can go to the next question, or whatever your
Yeah, sometimes I'm quite humbled by the answer that Angie gives. I have a comment, but it's almost beneath the energy level that Angie's comment was. So I'm almost feeling a little embarrassed that I'm going to go down this road.
Go
But
no
but going back to the since twin flames share the same soul, and then if my other half is at a low vibe while I'm at a high one, will this make me receive this negative energy accordingly? I'm going to stop right there, and I might go down the road here of defending your twin. I'm going to use a example and then come back to where it applies to this question. Angie is an introvert. I'm also an introvert, but I am not near as strong of an introvert as what Angie is. I'm a lot closer to the 50-50 mark of being on the cusp of introvert versus extrovert. So Angie sees me as an extrovert in comparison to her introvertedness. Now, we've got a designation in this question. I didn't want to call it a judgment. A designation that this is a possibility of having negative energy. Is it truly negative energy? Or is it still an acceptable normal energy that just doesn't feel up to your standards of positivity? It can go that way, but also this is one of the reasons why we can be twin flames, is that we are supposed to experience things from a different point of view to gain that experience. And maybe experiencing things from a very deeply rooted 3D level up is what your twin is supposed to be experiencing, and you just feel that as how they are. Like, I suppose going back to how I could be when we first got together, I was going through a time in my life where I had to feel that. I had to feel all my drill sergeanty bits and all my ego bits, and then I grew weary of it over the years and started to look for more balance. And through that was my spiritual growth, and now I'm kind of where I'm at. Once in a while I can still be drill sergeancy, but I don't like to do it more than 2 days in a row. And this person has, maybe the way that they are comes across quite negative, but it could be part of their learning path, which, if it's part of their learning path, if they are learning, I don't know if that's all that negative. It just feels negative because it doesn't meet what we hope that our twin would be actually giving for energy.
Cookie
What's Cookie doing?
scratching her nose all over the carpet.
Well, she probably irritated all of her teeth chewing on that bone, and now her nose is all feeling weird. Gibbled? She gibbled her nose. I don't even know where her bone is.
She ate it. It's gone.
All of it's gone?
Like that. It's uncommon for her. Okay. Anyway, sorry to distract you tonight. You don't need help.
Shiny object squirrel.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Shall we go to the next question?
Yeah.
Of this person's question? The second question?
We might have touched on this already, but I'll try it. My second question is, are these numbers, I guess we're going back to the 1111 and 111, a confirmation that he is my true twin?
Oh, already answered that. Look at that.
In addition, there is a very weird synchronicity that almost drove me crazy. Well, at least it didn't. It didn't drive you crazy. Congratulations. I suffer from a certain mental disorder that only 3% of the world have it. Sounds like my personality type. I figured out by chance that his mom has it too. Also, the age difference between me and him is exactly the same age difference with the same number of years between his mom and his dad, which is really weird. Oh, okay. A synchronicity. However, I've read that synchronicities, oh, there's the word right there, can happen with false twins too. Thank you in advance.
So it sounds like this person is really questioning, is this or is this not my twin flame? Which is absolutely fair. I think we've all been there on the journey. And I don't know if you've watched our video, what's it called? Something 50?
50 signs that you're with.
We'll link it. We'll link it. That
She'll
might be
find it.
helpful. It might not. I don't know. What I can tell you though is instead of searching outside for all of these like signs and synchronicities and like age differences and you know like things that I have and his mom has, I understand that because that's the ego. The ego needs to make sense of this journey and it's got to make sense of it logically. But there comes a point where you have to allow the ego to just go on its own and find your truth within.
Feel.
Yes. You have to know within that this is the connection that is for you, not think it. You have to feel it because it's a journey of the soul. It's not a journey of the mind. So you're not going to get your answers in numbers and synchronicities and all of those things. Yes, those can be a part of the journey. But like this person also said, they can be a part of the journey with a karmic partner. My karmic partner and I, had I looked at it only from the signs and synchronicities in those ways, could very well have been a twin flame because we had a lot of those things too. So it's much more of feeling into yourself, feeling into your soul. And that's the key thing is kind of learning to how to have a relationship with your soul. We often know how to have a relationship with our mind because that's what our world teaches us. But when we can have a relationship with our inner connection, our eternal being that we've been with forever, because we've been a soul for ever. In a sense, that's where you want to get your answers. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, when you start to question whether you've got a false twin or a real twin or whether this person is soulmate, which is another form of connection, really it does come down to the feeling. A lot of people spend a lot of time coming up with their own comfort zone of saying, okay, yes, this person is my twin. And then they start to put all their energy into trying to prove themselves wrong. I would let all the signs and signals get to the point that they totally crush you and say, no, you are not a twin with this person, before I start to question that. When you come to that conclusion that you do have a deep spiritual connection, the 5D connection, the twin flame connection with someone, I would be putting energy into defending that until you absolutely have proof that crushes your innate understanding that yes, you are a twin, or no, you're not. So if you're still really questioning that, and boy, a lot of people think that false twin is a negative term. Boy, as long as that word twin is still in the definition, that's still some kind of special relationship.
Well,
although it's not really the one that you would want. If you feel your twin, but yet that energy has directed you to someone else, that's another totally different topic. But yeah,
but a false twin can often be a narcissist.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't a bad thing either because they bring a lot of gifts with them. So grateful for my narcissist connection. So grateful. It was hell, but it was, I mean,
I'm very grateful for mine too.
totally.
And I'm very grateful that I don't have it now.
Yes, that too. But that's often what people label a false twin as, is a narcissist or a karmic. But yeah, they're in your life for a reason. Whoever they are, whether they're a twin or not a twin, a false twin or true twin, when you take away the labels and you can just see the soul for the soul, they're a gift in your life. They're there for a reason. They wouldn't be there if you didn't need them for some lesson, and vice versa. So sometimes it's better to just sweep away all of the labels and not worry about figuring out who's my twin, who's not my twin. Is this a real twin, a false twin, a fake twin, a whatever twin? And just allow the connection to give you the gifts that it's meant to give you, and then it will fall away if it's supposed to. Like sometimes we let our mind get too wrapped up in all of this. So that's my advice.
In summary, for what I was attempting to say is, when you've proven to yourself that you have a twin flame, let it be. Just don't spend a lot of energy trying to keep proving it. Let your initial conclusion, just like when you're doing a multiple choice test and you choose letter C, that's your first intuition. Stick with it until it really tries to prove itself to be not the right answer. If in doubt, stick with your answer. Chances are it was right.
Now, before we go to the next question, I just want to look at our time. How come our computer's no longer telling us when it's an hour?
Well,
We better end there since we're at our hour.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because, well, I could do this one quickly because there isn't.
Aha! Now that I've read it, I disagree. You can't do that one quickly.
You don't think so? I have my book.
Okay.
I'm prepared.
She's got her book. She's prepared. We're going to go to overtime.
Overtime. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to read the question?
Sure, I'll read it.
Because it's a question to Angie.
Yes, it is. Hi, Angie. Thank you for introducing the term HSP, highly sensitive person, if you're not familiar with that term. Also, how did you heal yourself after sexual abuse? Could you suggest some modalities which personally helped you? Yes. So, if you don't know my story, I will link it. When Rob and I first started doing our story videos, we each kind of did a story of our own, kind of explaining who we were before we even met. And there I shared about, the abuse I had as a child. Part of that was sexual abuse from two of my uncles from the age of 3 to 7. And I disclosed at 7, but didn't actually get help and healing until I was 18, because back in those days, counseling wasn't the in thing to do. But when I did go to counseling, that was number one help. I saw a counselor for 4 years, and it's actually kind of cool. I didn't even realize this until just now. That I'm 48. I started counseling when I was 18, so that's 30 years, and I am still in touch with my therapist. Of course, I haven't seen her as a therapist for many years now, but we still keep in touch, and we just connected over Christmas and shared stories and stuff. So you never know what life can bring, but therapy for me was a huge benefit. Now, some people don't like therapy because it's really slow, and if you understand energy work can work way faster than therapy. I mean, I was in therapy for 4 years, and that was just at that point, and then I've done more therapy throughout my life after that time. So I highly recommend energy work, Reiki, body touch, or body talk, I think it's called, healing touch, craniosacral, all sorts of different things can be effective. So all of those are very helpful. This was one of the biggest tools I had. Which way do I go? I'm sure this book is still in print. If not, you can probably get it at a used bookstore. My therapist, of course, recommended this when I was first going through this. This book is from, I think, the 80s. But it's still, I was just flipping through before we started the video, and I have notes and highlights I have so much.
There's proof that she
And you
read
can
the book.
see like there's tabs everywhere on it. I read this book over and over and over again, and it's still like I could get benefit rereading it now, 30 years later. It's that good of a book. So highly recommend this book or something like it. I don't know. I'm sure there's new books out on the market nowadays. Another thing that was very helpful for me, and I know this one is not like a tool anybody can just use, but two things actually. I was going to university taking nursing when I ended up in counseling. And so nursing was actually a huge benefit for me because I also did all of my papers on sexual abuse. So I was able to heal by learning about the abuser's perspective and understanding that they're just wounded children themselves, right? Like they're not these evil monsters we think they are. So that was of benefit. So even if you're not like in university writing papers, you can read and understand the psychological damage that has happened to these people when they were children so that you understand why they did to you what they did to you. And then that gives you some healing perspective of like, they didn't pick you because you're some nasty bad girl, because that's often what we're told is that we're bad or um, we've been chosen for this reason or that, but it's just because they're wounded themselves. And what's the saying? Hurt people hurt people.
Just a quick comment. Yeah, you might not be in university writing papers, but journaling.
Yes. Oh my God. I can't even believe. I wish I could turn the computer around. I have how tall is that stand? 5 feet tall? Just right there with all
Yeah.
my journals. I have 57 journals, I think. And I haven't journaled for years and like consistency like I did back then. But that was probably one of the biggest tools for me. And not everybody's a journal writer. I get it. I wasn't. My therapist recommended it and I tried it and I was like, I hate this. And then it became like a lifeline for me. I mean, and that's why if you've watched our story videos, obviously this person has because they know about my past a little bit. But we were able to share our story videos because of all my journals. I have recorded my whole life on paper, and it was so healing, so beneficial. So I can't even believe I didn't even think of that one, but thank you. I literally have a bookshelf full of my journals, and they're cherished.
A couple of people at my place of work, uh, I work with the public for a living somewhat, and and sometimes the general public can be a little bit frustrating. And there's a couple of people at my place of work that they write an email in email form that expresses their inner self, what they would really like to say to somebody. Once they got that out, they breathe a little bit, they hit the delete button, then they make sure that they've hit the delete button, and they get rid of the email. Journaling is very, very similar. You write it out, you vent it out, you let that feeling come out, but then you get to keep it because it's in a journal. And sometimes if you go back, you can reread, and if you've done a lot of healing, you can go, wow, I felt that way back then. Now I feel different. And you can actually watch your progress.
Yeah.
Watch your progress as
Yeah.
it goes along. Sometimes you have to maybe go back a few, here comes this word again, a few months or a year or two in your journaling. But yeah, you can see the difference in yourself now versus back then. And if you've made some progress, that's actually quite helpful for understanding and feeling good about your process.
Good point. I have two other things that I'm thinking of right now. More might come. One, and again, this is not for everybody, but if you are in a relationship or feel safe enough to let somebody in, often that's hard. If you've been abused, letting somebody of the opposite sex or even the same sex in to your, very personal, intimate space can be very scary. But for me, even after 4 years of therapy, like that, and that was like very committed every week or every 2 weeks kind of therapy, so it was very intense. Then I moved, met Rob, and I thought, I'm healed. And then Rob and I started becoming physically intimate, and it was like starting over. But one of the biggest tools of healing I've ever had is this person right here. And I am so grateful for the work he helped me do. If you have somebody who's very gentle, very loving, very compassionate, very understanding, um, sometimes not to be too graphic, but sometimes in the middle of being intimate, we'd just have to stop, and he would just have to like bring me back to the here and now, because I would be in the most intense flashback and not even be able to be present. Like my body would just be shaking. I don't know how much of that you remember, but my
Much.
God, he was a saint. He was so patient, so gentle, and so kind. And that, out of probably everything I've done, maybe other than journal writing, has been the biggest healing for me possible. Because when you have somebody that is able, and I'm getting teary because I feel so grateful for you, for the work that he helped me through. When you have somebody that's able to witness your deepest pain and your nakedness, not just your physical nakedness, but your rawness, your emotional rawness, and stay, because that's often when we've been abused, whether it's sexual or any other kind, we're afraid of letting anybody in because we're afraid they're going to hurt us and we're going to be that little child again. But when you have somebody that stays and is able to witness you at your worst, at your most raw, your most pain, that is so healing. It is so powerful. So if at some point, and I'm not saying you just go out and find somebody on the street and go, okay, let's do this. It's got to come from an authentic place, right? You can't just like pick somebody, and it's got to be a real, true twin flame or a soulmate or somebody that you deeply trust that can help you through that. So that's a big one. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, yes, having a spiritual connection, whether that's believing in God, believing in angels, believing in a higher power, whatever you believe in, I at least found very helpful, because one of the things when I was having my flashbacks is that I saw my soul would literally float out of my body and be up in the ceiling. When I was being abused, my soul would leave my body and would be up in the ceiling with my angels. So my angels were guiding me and protecting me. So knowing that you have support and have always had support is always very helpful. And I think one last thing, and you're right, I couldn't do this shortly. I'm sorry. I get emotional because this is such a powerful topic, and I don't get emotional because it still hits me in the same way. I mean, it's been 30 years of healing, right? So I've done a lot of work. But it's more I get emotional because I know the benefit in the work. I know how much of a gift it is to have had this experience. And that's the thing that I wanted to say that really is triggering to people, is that I can't speak for other people, but I know for me, I chose this. I am not a victim to being abused. I chose it on a soul level. I know we've had people comment in other videos that that's like absolutely triggers the hell out of them. And that's fair. That's your journey. I know for my journey, I remember on a soul level agreeing to this for my own growth, for my own benefit. So if you can look at it that way and know that you are not a victim, that this is part of your soul growth, and you have the ability, the support, the guidance, the help to grow, it makes the journey all that much better. When you see yourself as a victim, it's hard to heal because you feel like you've been victimized. You feel like somebody has taken something from you. Whereas when you know that you've chosen it, you feel gifted. And I do feel like it's a great gift. I've consciously spoken to both my uncles who were my abusers many years after, when I was an adult, and healed things with them. Not everybody has that opportunity, and not everybody wants to, and nor do you have to. It's not about forgiving them. It's about healing for yourself. But if you have the opportunity and you're open to that, that's another huge piece too. Whew! So that was a lot, and I could actually probably do a whole video on this because, as you can see, I'm quite passionate about it because it's such a gift to be able to heal. It's such an opportunity to open yourself up to healing if you're willing to. But now it's been longer than expected, so we should probably say good night. I do want to end, though, and just say for anybody that has been abused, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional, it doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse, and I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying go out and get abused because it's a gift to heal from. Absolutely not, of course. But I have deep compassion because I clearly have been there. I know how hard it is to heal. I know the extraordinary pain, but I also know the gifts, the blessings. So I send you my love, my compassion. Anything to add after all of that? Woo! I feel like I need to go have a good cleansing cry after that.
You could have another half a cup of oat milk.
Well, it's a little late for oat milk. All right, so we love you guys. Thank you for your questions, and we will be back with another set someday, hopefully soon.
We will catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.